Alright boys, here we go. Welbourn Farms round 9 of the Mid-East Hare Scramble Series. For some reason I'm having a real issue with these hot garbage starts I'm getting. All my fake starts at the beginning of the races all go off without a hitch, and then when the actual thing comes around I just can't make it happen. Back of the pack, into the first set of turns, into the field sections, and I clip this dude's back wheel and go down. I made up any time at all, lost it all right there. I don't have anything left, so I gotta make up from the back of the pack. I'm gonna jump ahead. This is lap 3. I've moved all the way up to second place, and this is where I stay for the rest of the race. This whole course was incredible. It was tough, but it was really well laid out. There were good gapping big sections of fields where you could pass and make good moves. There was really tight woods. There were good sections with just lots of rocks and ruts and roots. It made for a really interesting race. This guy behind me was pushing a little bit, so I go out wide to let him pass, and I figure I'm going to try and chase him down. I figure if he's going to push me, he better be moving, so I jump out behind him and try to see how well I can do. You can see that section right there is just roots and rocks, and that's essentially what the entire course was. A lot of good elevation change, a lot of good just conditions in general. It was really hot. It was like 91 degrees Fahrenheit and pretty humid. It had rained for a solid, I don't know, it was probably 18 days, it seemed like, just rain every day. And for some miracle, this place missed all that rain, and the conditions for this, the ground couldn't have been any more perfect. The fields were even dusty in some places, and for the first 2 laps they were kind of slick because all the grass, and you can just see here that the wood sections were just tacky and moist enough that they didn't really have any kind of, there were no big mud holes. There was nothing real, it was like nothing terrible about it. It had a lot of roots, like I said, and if it had rained or was slick it would have been just horrible, but this whole course was incredible. Me chasing the same guy. I'm not sure who he was. I think he was a schoolboy or something, but he makes a little mistake, and then I get past him here and I didn't see him again after this. The track went from being wide open fields to this kind of really fast double track, and then there were a couple sections of single track that was almost fresh cut, and it was really good. I wish that Mid-East actually would run this course twice in a year instead of being one of the faster tracks. Like if they skipped Antioch or Water Wheel and did this course twice a year, I don't think anybody'd be real unhappy about it. Maybe a couple people, but this seemed to be so far one of the better tracks of the year. And I'm glad that the Georgia Enduro that I was supposed to be going to do got delayed so I could come and do this course, because I would have been bummed if I would have missed it. It was really good. I see Jared there. I'm going to try and get by him. I didn't mean for him to go out in the water like that. Sorry, dude. Just trying to get past everybody. The mud sections that they had were like this. It was never anything where it just got so destroyed that you couldn't get through it, or it was a super big bottleneck. And the field sections were so wide that where you could just be anywhere you needed to be. And there's no rut really got developed, but it was just, you know, good, solid traction all the way through here. Big sweeping turns, and this is something I should actually go practice, is these flat track off camber kind of turns, because I was really having trouble sticking any traction down to the ground with this kind of like grass off camber, but I don't really know where I could go practice this other than a place like this, and I don't know anybody who owns a farm like this. You see just how much I slow down going into some of these turns. There's a faster guy behind me. I was kind of trying to get away from him, and I ended up pushing wide, so I apologize because I didn't want to throw him off his line. It's another one of those things where I get somebody in front of me who's faster, and I figure I'm just going to see how long I can pace him before I either make a big mistake or they get away from me. This was the worst mud hole, and they said from the beginning of the race, don't go through it, just go as far right as you can. I think it was with the terrain here that there was a lot of rock underneath, so all this standing water where it normally would have gotten just destroyed, it kind of shunted the water off. This is right before mile marker 3. You can't really see it from the GoPro, but this is littered with softball-sized rocks. And it was like this for a good, I don't know, a long way. It seemed like a mile or two of just this kind of stuff. A lot of roots, wider trail, faster trail with a lot of softball-sized rocks and roots. It caused a lot of problems for people. I saw a lot of people complaining about the rocks, and I guess people just aren't used to riding them, so it makes for a big issue. You watch a guy in front of me and see how much he's bouncing around. With this kind of stuff, you just gotta let your bike do what it's gonna do and keep the power down. It'll get you every once in a while, but if you can keep it straight, keep your bars straight and keep true to where you're trying to go, you point your bars where you want to head, generally it works out. Sometimes it doesn't, and you just get squirrely, but it's all about tire selection and momentum for that kind of trail. And you can see just how good the trail is. It never deteriorated much past this. There were never any big gnarly roots that got exposed. This was probably the hardest section of the trail, and for me at least, not a super steep hill, but it was pretty technical. And I had another shifter issue, so I was stuck in either third or fourth gear. I don't remember what gear I was in, and trying to navigate up that hill, losing traction, you know, is more and more difficult every lap. The first couple laps was where people were just all over that hill, and as the race went on, people got spread out a little more. It made up for it, and you could finally get a good clean run at it. This was after that rock hill. There was a good long rooty downhill, and at the bottom of it there was a big section of roots where people kept getting stuck. You see this guy in front of me catches a branch and goes down, and I'm going to jump back to lap 1 and get some mud on the lens, but I see all these guys bottlenecking up here where somebody had gone down, and I just decided I'm going to enduro hotline over past them. It's one of those things that's just risk versus reward. You're either going to make it or you're not, so what am I going to do besides add to the pile of people? This section was slower because of all the roots. It was these big established like spider roots that were everywhere across the trail, and you could get moving, but it was really likely that your back end was just going to walk out from underneath you, so it was better just kind of to be steady in where you were aiming and just steady on the throttle, not make any big weird inputs, because you would just go flying off the bike, or the back end goes dance out and slam into a tree or something. There's another creek I told you that was like this everywhere. The creeks were never super deteriorated, so it was never a spot where it was something that could really just swallow a bike. I think I only ever saw one bike get swallowed up, and it was that spot where I said in the beginning at the first part of the race, they said, you know, go right. If you don't go right, you're going to get stuck, and somebody did. Out of the double track into this single track stuff, and a lot of it was this off camber, you know, single bike wide, really nice, freshly cut stuff, and you could get moving really well on it. Had a good flow. People were overheating, I think, because it was, like I said, very hot, very humid. I drank 2 liters of water and a Gatorade during the race, so yeah, I was still kind of dehydrated afterwards, so I can only imagine if you didn't prehydrate or weren't carrying a Camelback or something during the race, it was just been brutal. This was probably my single favorite section of the course. This was more like an enduro than any course I've seen so far in the Mid-East series. Good, piney, established woods with a nice flowing trail through it. And you could see where this had been ridden before because there was a long established track in it where somebody had been riding this for a long time. And through the grapevine, I heard that this property was owned by someone in Caleb Russell's family, or he married into the family that owns this property. I'm not sure exactly what the story was with it, but it has something to do with Caleb Russell, and if he's out here riding, then it must have been good trail. This track and course was all about making intentional decisions about where you were going to be, and you could just decide where you were going to put the front wheel, and if you had decent tires and were confident about your selection, it would work out for you. I saw a lot of people off the trail. I saw a lot of people kind of taking their time, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes momentum is your friend, and this course was one of those places. This was a workaround section, so I get past this guy, and this is a long, straight section of this really squishy, shifting black mud. and I jumped back again to lap 1, and this is what the cut around was. It wasn't terrible, but I guess a lot of people just ended up getting stuck, so they worked around it and made that straightaway section. And Robert Creel in front of me. You see this guy over here stuck. Somebody turned going the wrong direction. 3 or 4 guys sitting over here, and then it was into this real deep, black, loamy stuff. Robert gave me a nice peppering of mud. That's where my goggles got torn off. See, this section here was the only section I really had any issue with, and it wasn't because it was a bad section. It was just not. I didn't like how it was laid out, and then it seemed like they'd come through with some kind of like I don't know what it's called, suiku, where they go through and cut trail. It seemed like they had done it kind of fresh, and the ground was so freshly tilled that it was hard to keep traction, and then your front end wanted to move around a lot. It was just weird terrain, and it by no means was it bad. It was just not my favorite section of the whole course, and it was a short section, so it wasn't really that big a deal. It's just after 6 laps of this course, it was ended up getting kind of tiring having to come through here again. My poor clutch, man. I've been having so many issues with my shifter. I've been sitting in 3rd and 4th gear all the time, and I don't know what's going to happen with it. Hopefully it can handle it. I got new parts on the way. You see this section's just slower, and I don't know, I just wasn't a big fan of it. I just made sure that I knew where I was going and didn't want to make any big mistakes, but that's the extent of it, so it wasn't that terrible. So this hill, you come up here, and then you get into this long uphill into an off-camber section of trail. It doesn't look terrible from the video because GoPros cut out angle very severely. This was rough. You had to be kind of leaning into the hill real hard and real particular about where you're putting your front wheel because there were rocks and roots everywhere, and it was really easy to get your back end just slide just like that out from underneath me. This is lap 1 again. You can see I hit that root, and then I'm trying to get ahead of this guy, so I cut the trail. And this is a thing I want to say about Mid-East right here is that, so this section, there's an arrow to your left here, and then you come across this open section that looks like it could be another piece of trail, and then you kind of just have to guess because it wasn't very clear. You could have gone down the hill, and then there could have been another marking, and I think that's what the problem with, like at P Rid, the group of guys went the wrong way. I think that if there could have been another marker there in that big open section where there could possibly have been somewhere else to go, that would have made that more clear, like the tape that's on the side of this clip, or another arrow, or a sweep standing there making sure people didn't go the wrong direction, because that could have ended up with a lot of people going either down the hill or making a bad decision going the wrong way. This is a good another section of single track. This was off camber routes the other direction on the other side of the hill. This was a tough section. It was really tight and had one good rut. And then there was this little hill thrown in there, big rock face in the front of it, and then a rut right above it. And I saw a ton of people sitting on the side of the trail after that one, or struggling to get to the top of it. You can see how slow I'm moving through this section. It is just navigating steep routes. Hard to do. Even if you're used to riding it, it's hard to do. And so I see why that section caused a lot of issues. Another creek, never really got deteriorated. The far bank, the one that you come up, kind of got beat up a little bit. It got washed out, so it became slick, but it was just about momentum keeping up to get to the top of it. You come out of the woods back into another long field section. Like I said, I need to practice these kind of flat track turns. I just very particularly comfortable with. And I punched that sign marker when it's just high enough to go right underneath your bar and hit your fingers. Switching over to reserve because this was 3rd lap or 4th lap, and I wasn't sure how far I could go because they had said originally that the trail was supposed to be 10 plus miles, but I think with the cutouts it ended up being 7. I guess it would have been 6.5 because I did 38 miles in 6 laps, whatever that works out to. Like I said, I've said it a bunch that I've liked a lot of these courses, and I think what it is that I just enjoy the way Mid-East lays out their courses now that I'm used to it. NCHSA courses are tighter and they're more technical. They're more like the hard parts of this trail all the time. But I don't think it's necessarily good, and with how many races that NCHSA has canceled this year, I think I'm going to be sticking with Mid-East next when I move up. I don't see the benefit of going to North Carolina if you can't rely on their schedule. Another fast field section, and this was the creek jump for this track. Mid-East always adds a creek jump, and I figured I'm going to keep doing them now. I don't know, I change my mind all the time whether I'm going to do them or not. This one seemed pretty safe, so, you know, just send it over the creek jump. It was a little 10-foot booter to a soft landing, so there was no harm and no real risk there. You could have just rolled it for probably second gear coming down the hill and made it. Alright, so this is the last couple turns coming into scoring. This was the last round before the break, and I think we come back at the end of August. I may go and do another race with NCHSA with Denver just to keep racing, but we'll see what happens. That was a lot of fun. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys have a good break. Peace.